Good afternoon, Xander. How are you today?
Very well, thank
Thanks for
you.
joining us. I know from some of the conversations obviously we've had previously that one of the things that you feel very strongly about is that younger people actually possess the skill sets for this period of time, this era, better than probably some of the more protected generations and the more senior generations. And that actually, although the younger ones are the ones probably feeling vulnerable at this moment in time in terms of job security, actually we should be trying to reverse that slightly and actually their skill sets we're going to need. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair for sure. And the funny thing is, if we these days, if we talk about the younger generation, the term millennials is a well-known one, obviously, but millennials are not even that young anymore.
No, they're not.
Millennial generation started born in
Oh,
77,
they'll be late 30s.
77 and 2000. So I think it's Generation Z, if I'm not mistaken. It's already entering the job market. So the existence of the smartphone is actually older than people that start entering the workforce right now. Meaning those the youngest generation out there doesn't know anything better than having an avatar personality of themselves online, right? They are very well experienced in things that the older generations, even including the older millennials, are still getting used to. Is not the right word. It's been out there for a while, but it's not part of their core existence.
Oh no, getting used to is exactly the right word, believe me.
And everything in between there.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, a quarter of the millennials already have kids, right? These days. So, but still, the millennial generation is now getting into that senior or mid-management age as well. Meaning the opportunities are out there, and more people are actually used to adopting new tools.
And are you?
Yeah.
So, are you finding that? Are you finding that companies are now beginning to really embrace technology for communication? Because it's probably been a hard training piece or education piece, that hasn't it?
Yeah. That's a tough. It's always a tough nut to crack, and the smaller the companies, the smaller the businesses are, the easier it is to adopt or to just use your own system. But obviously, that's something you'd like to prevent, right? You can imagine any retailer or hotel, cafe, small businesses, where if the employer does not provide the right tools, the right digital tools, people will just start their own WhatsApp groups. I mean, security, operational risks set aside, that's a huge security risk as well. Obviously, if somebody leaves the job, who knows who manages any group out there? You don't even know what groups are out there, actually. Yeah. And the interesting thing is the youngest generation, even though they are not the decision makers, they're a really accepting generation. They're more inclusive for other types of, solutions or people. And they're not always in the decision-making spot. And now during this whole COVID lockdown, slowly we're already talking about post-COVID, but it's still COVID lockdown in most parts of the world. It's super important. We want to adapt. People and companies need to adapt to make sure they outlive the lockdown. If you want to adapt, you need to try new things. And the millennials are...
Yeah,
go ahead.
So it is one of the really, you're touching on the whole thing. It is a fascinating challenge, isn't it? You're right. Millennials are in their 30s. They're in middle management, coming to senior management jobs. They're probably arguably the most educated group ever to come out in terms of degrees. They're ahead of where the baby boomers were. But actually they're quite quiet, but they're also more skilled. I mean, it is an interesting challenge, isn't it? Because actually this generation has so much potential, and yet it's not always understood.
True. And there's another thing on top of that as well. Because they are more accepting, and because they are easier in handling change, they're also easier to leave a job if it's needed, right? You don't see a boomer leave a job before they got a new one. You see millennials doing that. And during crises like this, retaining your work staff is pretty important. Because if they leave the job, they might as well leave the industry. And if a group of people does that, where does that leave the industry?
And are you seeing some change in how people are thinking about communication during this period of time?
Yeah, almost overnight, 3 months ago.
Well, that's always encouraging.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't an option, right? Everybody needed to adapt. Instantly, within 48 hours, everybody was talking about the tools out there. Governments using Zoom, security risks on top of that, and everything that, well, overnight, it needed to change. And now the working from home or working remotely has become way more normal than it was. And now the big question obviously is, on the way forward, what will stick?
Yeah, because leaders are going to have to change the way they communicate now, aren't they? Because I think the expectation is that the 15 to 20% of employees will come back during the summer to offices, and it will only rise to about 50% until the end of Q4. So people are going to have to learn a whole new discipline, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. And not only communication, you need to collaborate. It's more than just a video or a chat tool that needs to be adapted in the day-to-day operations.
Now, you work globally. Are you seeing differences between the United States, between Asia, Europe? Are there differences? What are those differences?
So there are. So let's take this as three regions. We've split it in our minds in APAC, Europe, and the US. The globe is more nuanced than that, but that's the way we approach the market. Between Europe and the US and Europe compared to Asia is completely different, right? So, and it mainly has to do with market development. When an economy is a little bit more stable, companies tend to invest better in retaining their employees. And we noticed that. Basically, because if it goes good, people can leave their job to find something better. So you need to invest in the people and therefore in the tools. That's a mindset we see on a corporate level. If we would compare Europe to the US, there's again a big difference, but that's more a cultural difference. In the US, if I would have to summarize it, in the US people live to work, and in Europe they work to live, right? So in the US, the job is super important. After 5, you don't just shut down your laptop. And working over the weekends, it's way more normal in the US mindset than it is in Europe. Reasons for that, I don't know. It probably goes way back. I can imagine that Europe being all small, everybody sticks sort of close to their friends and family. In the US, that's not the case. So after your high school, you move to another state, and your high school friends and your family is more of a holiday and Thanksgiving thing. Meaning that the weekends, your colleagues are more of your pals as well. All those things, cultural things put together. In the US, people expect more from their employer to invest in tools like this. You see that starting now in Europe as well. I don't know if that's because we start to travel more as well, or it's we adapt in our culture, or basically we love the digital developments in there. But the US is different in that, yeah. In terms of expectation from your employer.
So in terms of penetration, has it been easier to penetrate the US than it has Europe?
It is.
And as Europe's often a time thing as well, I find. Are you finding you're making traction with time into Europe?
Sorry?
I always find with Europe, it's actually also time. So they've got to hear your message X amount of times. So the more they see you, the more they actually buy into. It's more like a family, like a community. You've actually got to be accepted first.
Yeah, more emotion and less rational. Yeah, that could be. That could be. That's an interesting thought.
And how about Asia?
So Asia is not my market myself. Obviously, our company operates in Asia. We were even founded in Asia. From a company perspective, Asia is very much important for us. The cultural differences for me, I experience it more on the sideline. So I do see the differences, but it's hard for me to have a very strong opinion on it. Yeah,
no, that's fair enough. So how's lockdown impacted on you?
As a person,
yeah,
in my private life?
Both, yeah. Both that and the company.
So I've spent more, I've had the opportunity to spend more time with the kids because I was at home. I actually just had a newborn in the 31st of December.
Oh, congratulations.
So during the whole lockdown, I had my youngest bound to my stomach in a belly carry-on, and I was standing while working. I don't know if I would have had that opportunity without a lockdown. I'm pretty sure not, because the first one didn't had that advantage. So I live in Amsterdam, and I have a commute of 30 minutes twice a day, which is on a global level not that much time. I'm really lucky. But after lockdown, an hour of commute a day, I don't see that happening again. That's a waste of time. So actually, I'm in the office because I want to have some quiet time for this interview, but I will be spending more time at home going forward. Yeah.
Okay. And it's been good for families to come together, hasn't it?
Yeah. It's a stress test as well.
It has.
But to be honest, I mean, I think a lot of people around the globe have had to experience worse than I did. I think the lockdown was quite okay, but it's obviously very hard to be limited in your choice, right? In your choice, how you want to spend your time.
Yeah. No, that's enough. And how about the company? How's the company responded? How's it impacted on the company?
So we've been pivoting very hard, very fast-paced, actually. We are a company that provide a collaboration and communication tool for businesses. So practice what you preach in the most pure form. Working remotely is something that we built. So in that sense, it was easy for us to adapt to a new way of working. But obviously, we try to adapt as much as we can to the new demands from the market. Yeah. Very important focus industries for us are industries that have a large portion frontline staff in their workforce, and a few of those industries are obviously hit very hard. So we've been helping our clients and potential clients as much as we can in keeping the day-to-day operations and communications at a standard that's at least as sufficient as it was before COVID. And for these industries, it's not always that logical to be on the techie side of things during the day-to-day operations.
And how do you view the future now? How do you view the future?
I don't see a future without these type of tools. I cannot predict what we will do, and I cannot predict what the competition will do, but something like this is here to stay. Businesses need to, in the short term and in the midterm, businesses need to adapt and keep their social distancing. Who knows how many waves we're going to get hit by, and we might not be done for quite a couple of years yet. So industries and companies need to adapt. And one of the ways to adapt is to digitize collaboration and communication.
That makes sense. And you clearly firmly believe that work patterns will change now? That people won't return to the office as it was?
Yeah, I do. Of course, it depends on the industry. For some companies, it's just not out there. But I do think this lockdown, and that's that overnight thing 3 months ago, instantly, it was sort of a band-aid that needed to be pulled off for a lot of companies. I think a lot of companies had a sort of an eye-opener, concluding something in the line of, this isn't that bad. Yeah.
It's a really interesting one, isn't it? There's a lot of people who argue that we'll just go back to normal within 6 months, but I just don't see it happening, I have to say. I mean,
there's a crisis. It doesn't matter if it's a health crisis or a financial crisis or a war crisis for that matter. Normally, a crisis speeds up things that were due coming anyways. What is normal? I mean, a thing that was normal a year ago wasn't normal 5 years ago, and the same goes with now and 5 months ago. It just sped up a few things. Yeah.
It'll be really interesting. Xander, thank you so much for your thoughts today. It's been really interesting.
Thank you for having me, Chris.
Out of interest, how's Amsterdam? Is it opening up okay?
It's sunny. It's going to be 32 degrees Celsius this Friday. Yeah, it's opening up again. Under heavy restrictions, but hospitality and retail never closed. Hospitality is opening up again, and theme parks, sports clubs. So it feels like sort of normal again. But if you look closely in the small details, you see the differences. Yeah.
No, I understand that. All right. Thank you so much indeed. Thank you for your time. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you very much.